I can see all of our country representative has joined. Unfortunately, our brother from South Africa couldn't join us today. He had some meetings today, so he will be not able to present about what's going on in South Africa on today. To start off the meeting, without wasting time, I'm going to lead everyone in a prayer, and I'll pray using my own indigenous language, which is Shona, which is spoken by the majority here in Zimbabwe, in Harare specifically. So let us pray. Gatnamate, starting Baba, the Manakuman training, Devam Bedwich, Kashin, them got Tungamira. To say my Baba Rachataran, Racharonga, Goshen from Shaganak. Resistance, the same E and billion, you can escape. Amen. Yes, again, to those who have joined us for the first time, my name is Awad Ngwenya. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm hosting the meeting here at the ILoveBlackPeople offices at the HICC, at the International Conference Center. We welcome each and every one of you. With me, co-hosting with me is our sister, Yvonne Dushime. She's from Kigali in Rwanda. Again, we appreciate each and every one effort of joining us through this meeting. We welcome you all. Lined up today, we're going to have country speakers as usual, and also we're starting off with the healthcare lecture from Nana Akua Senzele, where she will be speaking about essential oils. Hopefully, each and every one of you attend that meeting. It's a meeting which you should attend because it will teach you about natural herbs and how you can treat yourself using natural resources around you. Thank you again to those who have just joined us now. And also we have people in the waiting room. Some of them are joining using their phone names. Actually, we do not allow those people to join using the phone names. We need actual names so that you know whom are we going to accept in our meetings. All right. So we are free to invite our friends and family to join through. I can see our numbers are low. We only have 24. We need to invite more people to join us today and learn more free. These lectures are for free. All they need is data. And our meeting ID doesn't require any passcode. You can just share with anyone willing to learn more about the Pan-African history and the healthcare, as well as knowing each other from different parts of the world. Thank you, everyone. I can see our brothers are raising their hands. Kindly introduce yourself in the chat room. I can see my brother from the Black History. He was asking to join. I can see you are there. Welcome. So without wasting time, we're going to start off with the reports. And I'm going to start off with our sister from Japan. Her name is Anna Stella. It's almost midnight right now in Japan. She will present on behalf of people of Kenya and also update us on what transpired through the elections as well. Yes, Sister Anna, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm trying to turn my camera on.
All right, yes, we can see you as well.
You can see me? Okay, yeah. Here's my report from Kenya. From 6 February to 13 July, we are still waiting for the election results. The Independent Election Boundaries Commission, IBC, after we vote on 9 August. For now, they stopped showing on media who is leading on the media, so we don't know who is leading until Tuesday, where they'll give us the final result. There have been issues here and there. They say the IBC say the media is delaying on giving information. Others are saying there were some votes were being hacked, so they stopped now showing on media until Tuesday. They'll give out the final report. We are still hoping for the best. Here are the activities. On Saturday, 16th July, we had an interaction class session with Nana Akua Nzenzele and Dr. Tyron Wright. Country spokesman represent their weekly reports. Members were encouraged to recommend business owned by Black people. Members were encouraged to buy global to book on Amazon. Social media accounts were shared to groups, and members were encouraged to follow, like, and share. Comment in all platforms. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to always attend our online Zoom event. Members and ambassador were asked to prepare and submit weekly reports. Here is my COVID-19 update from 13th August 2022. Accumulative cases in Kenya, there were 300,836, 504 million. Total recoveries, just a minute, I'm having issues with my screen. I think I have to fix this one. Total recoveries, 300,033. Total death, 0. Report by Anna Stella from Kenya. I am because we are.
Because we are. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you, Sister Anna, for compiling the report on behalf of people of Kenya. Hopefully the elections were peaceful and people voted in peace as well. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you for the effort and also updating us on what is transpiring in Kenya. Moving on, we're going to have our brother from Ghana. His name is Zo Owusu Agabe, to present on behalf of people of Ghana. Yes, brother Zo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, you can go ahead.
I hope you can also hear me.
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Hello, my name is Zoe Owusu Agbe, reporting from Ghana. I welcome you all to this session of the Saturday History Call. It's a privilege and a great honor for me to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, my Black brothers and sisters, I Love Black People app is using technology to build a global network which helps protect Black people from the harm, humiliation, and racism and xenophobia, especially while traveling around the world and in a new environment. This tech startup is powered by Bill Murray and the Green Book API. Many individuals have been engaged from the length and breadth of Africa and the diaspora, the Caribbean, the United States, the United Kingdom, Asia, and many more parts of the world. We are accessible in over 58 languages currently and almost all states in Africa and the diaspora. I Love Black People app is a tech startup crowdsourcing Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to populate our digital green book, which is also called the Survivor Guide or I Love Black People app on all devices, that's Google Play Store and then Apple iOS. We encourage you all to download the app and recommend Black-owned and Black-friendly space in your area to help protect Black lives from humiliation, racism, and xenophobia. In addition to the website and app, we have the Global Green Book, a Black Survivor Guide that can be gotten on Amazon. This Black Survivor Guide was created to help Black people access Black-owned and Black-friendly healthcare providers globally, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Brethren, this is a no one-man's work. Let us all join hands with your help. We are building a global network to help protect Black people from the harm, humiliation, racism, and xenophobia. Let us go on our various social media platforms, Apple Store, Google Play Store, and download the I Love Black People app. When they are most vulnerable, especially while traveling around the globe in a new environment. Let's save lives. Join the movement now. I Love Black People recommend the app for families, loved ones, brothers and sisters. Join your brothers and sisters. You can become a member, a founding member, a moderator, or a brand ambassador. We run free online Black history and health classes with our seasoned professor and lecturer, Dr. Taryn Wright and Queen Mother Nana Ekuya Zezele, respectively. Ghana COVID-19 and other health cases. Over the last 4 years, Ghana has been hit with diseases that has threatened lives and the economy. Currently, we are battling with monkeypox, Maybeck disease, amidst the bad weather called the Aphelia phenomenon. As the first president of the independent of Kenya rightly said, our children may learn about the heroes of the past. Our task is to make ourselves architects of the future. Jomo Kenyatta, Kenyan statesman and nationalist. Unity is strength, beloved. Let us unite until victory is won entirely. Live it, love it. You are black, we are black. I love black people. I am because we are. Reporting Ambassador Zoe Owusu from Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, I am because we are. We really do appreciate you, Ambassador Zoe Owusu Agbe from Ghana, for presenting the report on behalf of people of Ghana and letting us know what transpired in Ghana as well. On next, we're going to have our ambassador. She's from Mozambique, and her name is Ana Karina. Yes, Ana Karina, can you hear me?
Yes, good day, fellow participants from the I Love Black People community. My name is Ana Karina, ambassador from Mozambique. Today, let me present our report, and we had activities for the week as we had the last week's meeting with Mr. Mapondera, gave his welcoming remarks, and we had our Pan-African class content with the valuable knowledge from Nana Akwazenzele on healthcare, highlighting the plant benefits to prevent diseases, and with data terrain rights, having our Pan-African history. In addition, we were encouraged to invite all family and friends to join the I Love Black People family. And he also reminded us to download the I Love Black People application to identify and recommend Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses. And the links were provided by also iOS and Android users. And on our radio show, we had Dr. Sinclair Skinner, and the house, our guest, we had the Cleve Medicine with the team Revolutionary Spirit. And also on racism and xenophobia. We know that we didn't have any updates yet, but we know that the xenophobia and racism against Black immigrants is escalating, is getting broader and deeper, and is targeting foreign nationals, refugees, asylum seekers, and citizens who are perceived as outsiders. And that hate speech has become a central campaign for some political parties, especially in South Africa, against immigrants. On war crisis in Ukraine, Mozambique, as I said, expressed total solidarity for the loss of the losses from people from Ukraine, but it also showed abstention, took an abstention position, arising constitution principles about peace and dialogue. Updates on COVID, we had tested so far. This report is from the 11th of August of 2022, and so far it has been tested 8.401.344 cases, and were tested this week 1.374117 and 1.1 144,280 were negative, and 229,859 were positive. Recoveries were 227,376, and deaths recorded so far, and no deaths so far. The deaths are 2.218 cases. This data is from the National Institute of Health, and we are registering the increasing of cases. And in this regard, the preventive measures are being taken into account. Last but not least is that we also celebrated the John Magufuli, who was the Tanzania's former president, who never traveled outside of Africa while he was still in office. According to him, for him it was better to travel amongst African countries than to go outside. Thank you. This is Ambassador Anna Karina, and I am because we are. I love Black people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Anna Karina. We really appreciate you giving us updates on what is transpiring in Mozambique, and also please keep on sharing safe places for Black people right there in Mozambique. We do appreciate you giving us updates on what's going on around the country of Mozambique. Okay, thank you. On next, we're going to move on to all the way to Guyana, and we are going to have our Guyana country spokesperson, Clyde Fowler, to give us an update on what's going on in Guyana. Yes, Brother Clyde, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead.
Morning, brothers and sisters. Let us not forget each day is a gift that we should celebrate while remembering the liberty paid for by the blood, sweat, and tears for the freedom that we so enjoy. Here in Guyana, we have 7 new cases of COVID as of August 12th. We have 1 death also recorded. We are a new oil-rich country, but the Dutch disease has gotten a grip of our country. Hereby, we are having the rise in cost of living. We have recorded an increase in road fatalities and suicide. The government of Guyana has purchased some medications for the monkeypox. We haven't had any case here in the country, but the government has moved ahead by purchasing the medications for that disease. We continue to fight here in Guyana by the Pan-African movement here in Guyana. Next month, we are planning a lecture on Kwame Nkrumah on the Pan-African Mall. We have a mall that we would have acquired from the government, where we host lectures and so forth. So we are planning a lecture on Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Garvey for next month. That's the Pan-African movement. The opposition, the government has taken the election petition before the Caribbean Court of Justice because of allegations and also rigging of the elections. So that is before the Caribbean Court of Justice. We continue to see the ill treatment of our Haitian brothers and sisters here in Guyana by the government of Guyana, but we are fighting and we continue to raise awareness against the maltreatment and of these brothers and sisters. As Dr. Maya Angelou would have said, for Africa to me is more than a glorious fact. It is a historical truth. No man can know where he is going unless he knows exactly where he has been and exactly how he arrived at this present place. Same is true in the song of Bob Marley and the Wailers, Africa Unite. In the year 1884 to 1885, the Europeans sat at a table in Berlin, Germany, and not a single African was there. and they carved up Africa into territories, into territories we now call countries and nations, so that the resources of Africa, both human and material, can be used to enrich Europe while Africa is kept divided. It is therefore our duty to download the I Love Black People app for Android and ISO. Also listen to the radio program that is being presented by the founder and his guests. And our Pan-African lectures on Pan-African history, the classes being lectured by Dr. Tyrone Wright and Anna Nkura, who are on herbal health. Therefore, we share and we download and we become educated to make the vision of unity a reality. We are because I am, and I am because we are. Ambassador Clyde Fowler here for Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Clyde Fowler, for giving us a quick update on what's happening right there in South America, in Guyana. We really appreciate you with the work which you are doing. We can see safe places which have been recommended right there in the southern part of America. We do appreciate with the work which you are doing. And also we are with our brothers and sisters in Sierra Leone. We pray for peace. I can see also Musa Islam Kamara raised an issue in the comment section that he wanted to give us an update about what's happening there in Sierra Leone. We are with you, brothers. Hopefully we have peace and you resolve the conflicts or the protests which are going on there. At the moment, kindly stay safe and also recommend safe places for other fellow Black people right there in Sierra Leone so that they will not be attacked during these times of protest. And also, I'd like to reach out to me and compile a report on what's going on in Sierra Leone so that you can be able to present it on our Zoom meetings. Thank you once again, Brother Musa Islam Kamara, for raising that issue. We also posted in our groups that we need to put you in prayers and also so that you'll be safe. Again, without wasting time, our co-founder is on call with us today. His name is Mr. Christopher Mapondera. He's Zimbabwean, but residing in the United States of America. Yes, sir, Mr. Christopher Mapondera, can you hear me?
Yes, but I can't. Oh, okay, I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you as well. We can see you.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, it's nice to come and talk to you every Saturday. I always look forward to my Saturdays because it gives me one day of the week that I can communicate with my brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces all over the world. You know, it's a pleasure. As I always say, you know, that it is important that we keep abreast with what's going on in our world, you know, in the Pan-African world. I'm glad the brother from Sierra Leone is sharing with us, you know, what is going on there. And next time, I think, you know, if there's still instability going on, you know, I think we should also give him a little bit more time to put us up to date. Now, for this week, there's been an issue that has been circulating amongst many of the African chat groups, you know, that I am on. And this is the story on the Ukraine port having been opened up so that they can load grain for the hungry Africa. Now, the way the whole article is portrayed, you know, it's like the whole of Africa depends on wheat coming from Ukraine. And yet when you go deep into that article, it's really talking about Ethiopia. The war, you know, supposedly the war going on in Ethiopia and in the Horn of Africa. So my issue is that we have to tell our own story. I've always mentioned that, you know, that when people start projecting us on our behalf, they'll paint all kinds of, you know, images of how hungry Africa is. I mean, you can't even, you know, talk to us as if we were one one little nation. You know, I mean, it's 1.4 billion people, and what is happening in Ethiopia is not necessarily happening all over Africa. There are places in Africa that are self-sufficient as far as food is concerned. If I recall, only 4 countries in Africa really depend mostly on wheat coming from Ukraine. But the whole thing that is going on is that, as you will recall, you know, when the United States wanted Africans to vote against Russia, when the whole Ukrainian-Russian situation started, most, if not all, African countries refused to be aligned with one group, one side or the other. And right now there is a bill that is circulating in the US Congress, you know, that is going to penalize African countries that are going to be trading with Russia, which, you know, has brought a lot of protestation from many African leaders. I remember like a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, that the United States representative to the United Nations was in Uganda, trying to persuade President Museveni, you know, that he should side with the US in condemning Russia. President Museveni was very emphatic about it. You know, that no, you cannot force us to be against Russia because you are against Russia. We have nothing against Russia. We have a different relationship with Russia. So whatever is happening between Russia and Ukraine and yourselves, that's your own business. And that campaign was going on all over. For the first time since he came to office, the United States Secretary of State was in South Africa, and he also visited Rwanda. But this was caused again by the fact, you know, that 2 weeks earlier, the Russian ambassador was visited a few countries in Africa. And so the United States did not want to be seen as if they don't care about Africa. For the first time, they also realized, you know, that no, if you don't make yourself relevant to African nations, then don't come to them when you want their vote at certain issues, you know, happening at the United Nations. So I was quite pleased by the fact that most African countries stood their ground, you know, just like what Nelson Mandela said, that your enemy is not necessarily our enemy as well. You know, you can have your own enemies, but we don't have to be their enemies as well, because they are your enemies. Nelson Mandela had mentioned this when he visited Cuba after his release from prison, and the West was not happy about that, you know, because they wanted to maintain Cuba to be totally isolated, and that Cuba has played quite a major role in the liberation of Africa, and also they are playing a very major role in providing medical assistance to Africa. I mean, they are sending in doctors to various countries on the continent. So by the fact that, you know, the US has maintained embargo on Cuba for more than 50 years should not be used to compel us to say, well, we can't deal with the Cuba, you know, because the United States doesn't want to deal with Cuba. Then some of the things that I really wanted to touch on briefly, I think I've got enough time to do that. I remember when I was growing up, issue of time was nothing that I was made to think consciously about. And if you are like me, I know in many parts of Africa, culturally, we are not made to drive our activities on the basis of time. But we're in a different lifestyle now. Things have changed. We're in a different, era that we now have to start looking at the time. And at times, as young people, we think we've got a lot of time to ourselves, that, oh, well, I don't have to do this, I'll do it next year and whatever. And next year comes on, you find that, you've got another excuse and so forth. And time will be moving on. So my message today that start being more conscious on how you utilize your time. Explain what's happening, each day, each week, each month, that you plan on your time. What is it that you want to accomplish, on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly? You can take it that even to the extent that, okay, if I'm 20 years old now, what do I want to be like in 30 years' time? I mean, when I'm 30 years, will I have finished my college and, gotten myself into a profession and so forth? And when I'm 40, what will I have accomplished? Have I gotten a business going on and it's running smoothly, or did I get myself into some kind of a profession, or did I want to get started, start my family, and what do I want my kids to be, and so forth. So that becomes very, very important, that we become more conscious for our time. At times we don't do things because we are waiting for somebody else's timeline. So, oh, well, we can't do this because my teacher hasn't, come to this chapter in our textbook, so I can't do anything about it. Let me wait. No, you can't do that. You've got to make your own time and say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish and so forth. And I think as Africa as a whole, we have to project as well, that at what stage do we want Africa to be totally independent, both economically, politically, and any other way. We have given ourselves some timeline. That's why they are saying, the AU is saying by 2060, the whole of Africa should be totally integrated, both economically, politically, and otherwise. We have a 2030, which again, set our goals, that we should have a level of integration, from free trade, transportation, open skies for African airlines can go anywhere. You can probably have a common African passport and so forth. So these are all timelines that we are setting up on a continental level, but we have to bring it down to our own level. They say time is money. And so that's something that, somebody just commented on that. Yes, you've got to look at it that way, that every minute you could be making money, but also you could also be using that time to help somebody. Always have time to help somebody who may be in need. If you're in a position to help out, you should do so. And then finally is the issue of health, which I'm also very much concerned with. We have to take charge of our own health. As we know that the ratio of population to doctors in Africa is astonishing. But that as it may, you still find that we have been able to survive major problems, like the COVID-19. People have expected that there were going to be millions and millions and millions of Africans dying because of the lack of medical services. But I contend that what saved us is because the majority of our people do not eat the poisonous stuff that we are compelled to eat, food that's are very high in salt and sugar, food that is contaminated with all the pesticides, herbicides, and so forth. This, to me, I think was our savior. So we must be conscious of what our health situation is, and make sure that we prevent getting sick by eating properly, by living a healthy lifestyle. So these are my messages today, that one, let's make sure that we start becoming conscious of how we make use of our time, and do not let some other people dictate what is it that we should be doing when, and so forth, and that we should be in charge of our own health, and not be lured into having so-called sophisticated foods, which are nothing but salt and sugar, and some of it full of chemicals, GMOs, and so forth, which makes an impact on our health. So that's what I have for you today, and looking forward to next week. If there are any questions? I'm just looking here. There's just one comment. I think I've addressed it. Okay, thank you. Award, it's yours.
All right, thank you so much, co-founder Mr. Christopher Mapondera, for guiding us through the stage, and hopefully each and everyone got the message. If you want to know more about this speech, if you joined late, kindly reach out and go to our Facebook page or the YouTube channel so that you can find the recordings there. Thank you so much, co-founder Mr. Mapondera. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I am because we are.
Okay, same thing to you. Anyway, from 2 weeks from now, I'll be making this from Zimbabwe, so I'll meet you in Harare next week, guys.
All right, we'll meet you here at the offices at the HICC Rainbow Towers Hotel. Thank you so much, Mr. Christopher Mapondera.
Okay.
All right. On next, we're going to have our healthcare lecture with our Queen Mother Nana Akua Senzele. Yes, Nana Akua, can you hear me? Yes, our Nana Akua is joining us in audio. Kindly switch on your camera so that you can receive a shout out from Nana Akua. Yes, everyone, you can switch on your cameras.
Okay, you finally unmuted me. Hey, good day, greetings, everyone. Yvonne, hello. Hello, Clyde, Natalia, Samuel. Oh, I don't know if Johnston, I'll say your name right. Eben. No, that's probably wrong. I'm probably saying it wrong. And Nanzo and Daniel, and hey, brother Haki. That's my good brother there. I know him personally. Anybody else here? Charles. Hey, Charles. Okay, just trying to make sure Daniel. Okay, I think I got everybody. Wonderful, wonderful. Great to see you all, your beautiful Black faces. Thanks for joining us again today. So we are continuing our healthcare lecture, and we're doing the second part of lesson 2. If you're in the WhatsApp group, the lesson packets are still separated into 4 lessons, and each lesson we share 2 weeks of information from. So last week we talked about my first love in traditional healing, and that's herbs. So today we're going to talk about other natural healing plants and foods that come from the earth. So we're talking today about homeopathic remedies, and we're talking about superfoods. We'll probably talk a little bit about some essential oils, but just other natural occurring substances that can heal the mind, body, and spirit, okay? And Haki, I still need my turmeric, by the way. Hello? Turmeric? You ain't sell all the turmeric, did you, Haki? Okay, he ain't hearing me. He's not hearing me. Okay, so let me see if I can share the screen. Oh no, it's not up. Why is my lesson not up? I pulled it up. Let's see if we can make it happen. Let me try again. Still not up. Oh my goodness. One day I'm going to have an assistant that will just do all of this stuff for me, and I'll say, oh, just bring up lesson number 2 on homeopathics. Because it doesn't look like I'm going to learn how to get this right every time myself. Let's try it again. Yeah, still not there. Okay. So today we are talking about, and you may not be able to see it, but we're going to talk about, let me start with superfoods. So again, to recap, last week we talked about herbs. We talked about how wonderful they are. There are many different ones. I highlighted a few of my favorites. And I also have some favorite homeopathic remedies. Homeopathics are usually you're not using them, well, you're not using them straight from the ground, right? You're using these formulated herbs or formulated plants that are made into homeopathics, whereas they may be from plants, minerals, or maybe even animal or insect components, right? And we know that all natural occurring, but we know when modern medicine or pharmacology kind of got hold to this concept, they then added synthetic or chemical or man-made substances to these natural occurring items. And pharmacology is based, in fact, off of homeopathy. So homeopathic remedies, all natural occurring, but still certainly may be not just plant-based. But we know that we use these in different ways than we use regular herbs. So last week we spoke about herbs. We know that we use herbs in either infusions, like in teas. We may use them encapsulated, where the powdered herb is added into capsules, preferably vegetable-based capsules, right? Especially if you are a person that's avoiding pork and not using gelatin capsules, right? But we know we might also use it in tincture or extract form. We may use it topically in baths, as compresses, as poultices or boluses. So there are different ways to use herbal products, but in terms of the homeopathics, these are taken internally, or you can use them topically in creams and ointments and things of that nature. But how you take homeopathic remedies is a little different because it's taken sublingually. So you're not swallowing it and it going through the digestive system. You are placing it under your tongue and it's being taken or absorbed into the body through the mucous membranes in the mouth. So it gets a quicker absorption into the body through the bloodstream, right? And so because of that, we take it on what we call a clean mouth. So we've not just eaten something, we've not just drank something or brushed our teeth, because all of those things that are in or introduced into the mouth can interfere with the proper absorption of the homeopathic remedies. So have to take a couple of little, make a couple of preparations or take caution to do it. However, it is indeed worth it. We know that it's worth it because it can get into the system quicker and give a better, faster result. We also know that it's taken in smaller amounts, right? So you don't have to drink 6 cups of tea in a day, right? You simply may take 3 to 5 little pellets of the homeopathic remedies. And you may take it frequently, but once the symptoms subside, you may not need to take it anymore at all. So it works a little quicker because it's absorbed into the body faster. There are what we call creams or ointments that where even if you're not taking the homeopathics internally, you can apply them. Arnica is one of those that are typically used topically. So we use those for sprains, when we strained our muscles, when there have been kind of topical injuries, and that helps heal from the outside in. But generally, if you're taking homeopathics, you are doing it internally, sublingually. So let me try one more time to see if I can show my screen to you. Try again. Oh my goodness. Why is it still not working? Okay, well, I'm going to pull it up so that I can refer to it, but my apologies, you will not be able to see it. I don't know why it's not cooperating with me. So let me just share some of the common homeopathic remedies, right? So the first one is what we call allium. This is made from onion. Oh, the other concept with homeopathics is it's the concept of like cures like. So in a certain situation, that same substance that will create certain symptoms in the right formulation and dosing will also cure that condition. So in this case, allium cepa is made from onions, right? And it is for symptoms that cause tearing of the eyes, dripping of the nose, and it's a frequent constant remedy for the common cold, hay fever, allergies, sinuses, things of that nature. And this is when there is those symptoms that onion can cause, right? Like watery, burning eyes, nasal discharge, irritation to the nostrils, things of that nature. So, whereas if you just naturally are cutting the onion, you may experience these symptoms, but if you are experiencing these symptoms because of an allergy or sinus, the same remedy in the allium cepa form will alleviate those symptoms. So, cure like cures like. Another common homeopathic remedy is arnica. I mentioned this one briefly when I talked about using it topically for like sports injuries, trauma, sprains, strains, things like that. This is derived from an herb called mountain daisy. So those are the topical uses, right? But internally, you may also use it for things like healing, just sort of the emotional shock of, say, an injury or a trauma. So it helps to reduce pain from that injury, helps speed up the healing process, things like that. So you can start internally and then, of course, apply the cream, gel, or ointment topically to the injury to promote healing. Chamomilla, we know, is another herb-based homeopathic remedy, which comes from the flower chamomile. This is used to help people sleep, especially infants who are struggling with, say, teething or colic, or just incessantly crying, just because babies sometimes do that. And it helps give them relaxation and helps calm them and sedate them, if you will. This is what we would consider a nervine or sedative type of herb or homeopathic remedy. The next remedy is Hypericum. Also comes from an herb called St. John's wort. This remedy is the first you should consider for injuries of the nerves. So parts of the body, like say you slam your finger into the car door, or you stump your toe, or there's an injury to your back and there's shooting pain. Hypericum is the remedy that helps to alleviate that. This is a strong nervine herb that helps with nerve pain. Ignatia is another remedy. This comes from a plant called the Saint Ignatius bean. This one is used mainly by psychiatrists. This has really good psychological or mental health impact. So it's really used often for acute grief, anxiety, and depression, it definitely, after there's been, say, a separation or a loss from a death or maybe a divorce, or there's some kind of separation from a loved one. So this is used often for psychological or psychiatric reasons. Magnesium phosphorica, this comes from a mineral from the phosphate of magnesia. And this one is used for cramps, whether it's menstrual cramps, whether it's a cramp in your leg, your back, any type of cramping in the body. This one is great for alleviating that cramping pain. The next one is Nux Vomica. This comes from a plant called poison nut. This is used for treating symptoms of overeating, whether it's from overeating, whether it's symptoms of over drinking, consuming, too much alcohol, and relief needs to be obtained from bringing out the, trying to combine words, the toxins or the poisons from the body. So this one is called Nux Vomica. So of course we know if there's nausea, if there is, food poisoning, different things like that where there's upset and we need to relieve by purging. This is a good remedy for that. The next one is Pulsatilla. This comes from a flower, an herb called windflower. This is excellent for, especially for children, but also another one for psychological issues. So if there is the need to kind of calm someone's emotional state, right? If they, again, need to be sort of sedated and calm down, Pulsatilla is good for that. It also has other uses. They don't list it here, but it's also, oh goodness, I used it for one of my children. I want to say it was, it's escaped me now, but it is one of those remedies that's often used for children as well. And again, could be, a tantrum or a fit or something where you may need to calm someone down. The next one is Rust Tox. This one is a remedy for sprains, for strains. If there's problem with movement, also it's good for arthritis, flu symptoms, things of that nature. This comes from the poison ivy plant. And of course, obviously, this is another example of like curing like. Then you can also use this for poison ivy. So the same plant that in a certain situation will cause a condition, in the right dosing will treat that same condition. So you can find Rust Tox in the remedy itself. You can find it in soaps and creams to treat poison ivy. So we know that there are many, many hundreds, maybe thousands of homeopathic remedies. I just wanted to highlight those for now. Let's move on to aromatherapy. We know that essential oils are the oils derived or drawn from the flowering parts of different plants. And we can often use those to heal the body, whether you're using them in a bath form, whether you're using them as a compress, whether you're using them in a diffuser and just getting the effects of the aromatherapy itself. There is definitely a good chance of getting the effects from the essential oils themselves. I was here still trying to pull up this. I don't know why it's not working. I hate this. Trying to pull it up. Okay, anywho, so essential oils. So some of my favorite essential oils: peppermint, I pretty much use every day. Peppermint oil, very common, very easy to find, just as popular probably as lavender. But I use it because it's very uplifting. It helps clear your sinuses, your nasal passages. If you have any kind of cold, flu, allergies, sinuses, things like that, if you are using it in a diffuser, it really helps to kind of open up any nasal passages and help really assist in your breathing freely. If you have therapeutic or food grade, you can certainly add it to your water. I find it to be really helpful with digestion. We spoke probably last week about peppermint itself as a good after dinner tea. So same concept here. If you add it to your water, we know that it can be good in helping to assist in the digestive process. And I just love the smell. I actually just yesterday, I've made products for many, many years, but in recent years, I've gotten out of making them. And I had an order for one of my products, rosemary foot salve, which has peppermint and rosemary herbs in olive oil and shea butter. And so it's really healing to your skin, especially your feet. And that tingly menthol feel and smell in it from the peppermint is really, really healing for tired, achy feet. So I love peppermint. I use it in some of my hair products, my foot products. So peppermint is one of my favorites. Another essential oil that, of course, a lot of people are very familiar with is lavender. It's a sedative or nervine herb as well. Very often used to just help induce sleep and relaxation. But I often say I try to expose people to other essential oils other than those basic ones, but they still in and of themselves are excellent and still should be promoted. It's sort of like how I feel about amethyst crystals, right? Most people who have ever seen or heard of crystals have heard of amethyst, right? And so sometimes I shy away from talking about amethyst because it's already so common and popular. However, it's still an excellent healing tool and has some really good properties. So I don't want to overlook some that are more common, but I do want to expose you to some that are not as common. So peppermint, lavender, you may have very well heard of those, but let me expose you to some that are maybe not as common. So basil, we know, for example, as an herb that we usually cook with. So it's considered one of our cooking or culinary herbs, but the essential oil of basil has a lot of healing properties as well. Bronchitis, colds, headaches, coughs, fatigue, sinuses, helps with concentration, mental clarity, memory, confidence, courage, right? So all of these are excellent and several good reasons to use basil essential oil. Another one that's not as common, and I usually try to mention this one because this is one of my favorites as well, is cinnamon. So of course, if you like the taste of cinnamon, excellent, you're familiar. But as a healing oil, it's an antidepressant, an antiviral, an antibiotic, helps with infections, colds, arthritis, rheumatism, and it basically helps to energize the physical and mental and emotional bodies. And it also promotes prosperity and increases or enhances your mood. Another one that most people use maybe in, say, spiritual work is frankincense, but we know that it also has some other healing properties. It helps with mental fatigue, arthritis, aging skin, respiratory problems, dreaming. And of course, again, spiritually, a lot of people use it for meditation, for inspiration, for enhancing your intuition and inner guidance. But there are definitely some physiological healing properties to frankincense as well. Ginger, we have talked about that in our herbal section. We know how it affects the body with lowering the temperature, so it's good to use for fever. We know that it's an anti-inflammatory, so it's great for aches and pains and arthritis, right? But we also know that it's energizing and it helps enhance your mental and spiritual state. Even your sexual prowess, it helps to increase your libido and such like that. Also good for increasing confidence, courage, and assertiveness, right? So how about that for ginger? And then lastly, let me pick another one that maybe is not as, oh yeah, neroli. I like to mention neroli. Neroli is an essential oil that's an excellent antidepressant and sedative. It's good for insomnia, shock, nerves, skincare, scars, and PMS. So it's good if you want to help lower your blood pressure as well. So this is one that is really good, helps clear negative energy, and it's a good self-purifying oil as well. And it enhances joy, right? And we're always chasing joy, so we love anything that's going to increase our joy. So let me move down to the superfoods, and then I'll see if there are any questions. And I apologize for not being able to share the screen, but I think you can just look at my pretty brown skin for now and hopefully still get the information. So superfoods are foods that are so highly nutritive, so packed with vitamins and minerals, amino acids, and things of that nature, that they are considered extraordinary, that they are super. These are foods that if you eat these or include these in your diet, you're really helping to enhance and increase your vitality, your longevity, your energy, because they are highly nutritive. And we know that we eat, right, for pleasure, but we really, and most people are going to still eat for pleasure, and I don't have a problem with that. But we know that what we really, really need is to eat to live. And we need to eat and consume those foods that are life-giving and that produce sustenance for our bodies, the nutrition that it needs to maintain itself and to thrive and function optimally, right? So these foods are considered those. Almonds, we know, are packed with calcium and vitamin E, and protein is a good source of protein. And so this is a good food to add to your diet. We know that avocados have the essential fatty acids that we need in our body. So we know, and they contain what we call monounsaturated fats, right? So these are the good fats, the healthy fats that are essential for life. We know that something called wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is full of minerals because it has chlorophyll in it. It has all of that wonderful green, highly mineral, highly nutritive substances that allow the body to have more energy and more vitality. It's full of iron, calcium, magnesium, amino acids, vitamins A, C, and E. So wheatgrass, we want to include. Salmon, again, with the essential fatty acids, it's full of omega-3 and 6. And so these are the types of fats or oils that the body needs to stay lubricated, to stay well oiled, so to speak, right? Flax seeds is another superfood. This is a food that we know can help fight depression. It can help fight cancer, especially breast cancer. These, again, are the good essential oils that the body needs. It's high in vitamin B6, copper, phosphorus, folate, magnesium, dietary fiber, and manganese. Highly, highly nutritive substance. Blueberries. We know that there are many benefits to blueberries, right? And of all the berries, I think raspberries are up there, and they're very, very highly underrated as well. But blueberries, probably the most highly nutritive berries that are out there. And they have phytonutrients, they have vitamin C, and high amounts of fiber. And we know that these help go a long way in the fight against different chronic diseases. Cinnamon, cinnamon, we've already talked about, is also considered a superfood. It suppresses and fights urinary tract infections. It's soothing for the stomach, improves brain function, lowers the LDL, which are the bad cholesterol in the body, and it promotes healthy glucose metabolism, right? And then last, I'll mention sweet potatoes, and there are other superfoods, but let's just stop with this. Sweet potatoes, full of different nutrients, vitamin A, B6, C, fiber, potassium, better option to your standard white potato because it's going to have more nutrients and be a little lower on the glycemic index chart that we've talked about before. So let's see, I have a couple of minutes. Let me see if I have any questions in the oil is better for old people. So the thing with oils are you want cold pressed or expeller pressed oils. If it doesn't say expeller pressed, cold pressed, or extra virgin, these are not the oils that you want. And then of course, oils gets tricky because then you want to know what you're using the oils for. So your sunflower oil, your safflower oil, your walnut oils, corn oil, olive oil, all of these are for low temperature cooking. If you're frying foods, you need to have oils that will maintain their molecular structure at high temperatures of 400 degrees or so, right? So those oils that you would fry with are things like sesame oil, macadamia nut oil, sesame seed oil. There's one more that I'm just missing right now. But so oil is important, but it's also important to know what you're using the oil for. And then of course, you want oils that are good enough to put on your skin. So somebody's asking about oil to put on your skin. I like almond oil. I like apricot oil. These are the lighter oils that I usually will make some of my like facial products with. Some of the heavier oils that will absorb and be a little thicker and help with sort of dry skin and stuff like that would be like your olive oils, your coconut oil, your avocado butters or avocado oils, things like that, that are a little heavier, a little thicker. Ulcers. So what is coming to mind is marshmallow root. Is a good herb for like stomach issues and things like that. I'm sure there's others, maybe slippery elm. But maybe try juicing cabbage or potatoes. These are typically used for like stomach issues like ulcers. If it were me, because I don't recommend specific remedies. So let me go back and say that. But if it were me and I had ulcers, I'm scrolling through. So I see that Award has put my email. If there's something that I missed, because I am out of time, feel free to email me if you need the packet that you didn't get to see today and you want to have the actual copy, feel free to email me and I'll send that to you. And so thanks for joining, and please join us next week and we'll move into our next section about stress release and maintaining, healthy emotional and psychological health. So as always, I bid you good health and peace, and have a wonderful next lecture and weekend.
Right. Thank you so much, Nana. We appreciate the lecture. And for those who are requesting for handouts, kindly reach out to nanakoa1@gmail.com and request for today's lectures handouts. And also, moving forward, we'll make sure that we have those handouts in case Nanakoa fails to share them, so that we can share it for you. And hopefully you are hearing this as we are on the technical part, and make sure that it will be fixed as well. All right, thank you so much, Nana. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And moving on, next, we're going to have the Pan-African History Lecture with Dr. Taryn Wright. Welcome, Dr. Wright. Yes, sir, you can unmute yourself now, Dr.
Yes,
Wright.
hello. Yes, I was trying to unmute myself. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen momentarily. And I wanted to say this week, we are actually going to be recovering or recapping what you should have read this week, which was Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist. The chapter on Pan-Africanism. And you'll see me momentarily. Okay, I think you should see me. Okay, good. So good morning, afternoon, and evening, I think, for some of you. We're going to recap what you should have read in Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist, the chapter that you had distributed in WhatsApp this week. And this week, we will look at one of those cases that would be a model of what one would say is Pan-Africanism, in the sense that we can measure how it was to the benefit of African people, both internationally and, if you're in the United States, domestically. And that case is called the African Exclusion Measure. Okay, and I'll be sharing that in the WhatsApp group. So if you're not already enrolled officially in the course, you need to do so to have access to that actual case. The case comes from the book that the last chapter came from. It's this book. It's called Booker T. Washington, Africa, the Making of a Pan-Africanist. You do not have to buy the book or anything like that. I'm not asking anybody to buy the book. I will be giving the chapters that we use to you in the context of the WhatsApp group. So I do want to go to the document real quick so that we can recap. And then what I'm going to do, if I can in real time, is put the case that we're going to look at this week in the WhatsApp group for everyone to examine and read. It's a short case. Nice to see you too. It's a short case, so you should be able to read it very quickly, and it moves along quickly, and it gives you the specifics of a case that took place in 1915. Sorry, I was trying to adjust my camera. In 1915, where Booker T. Washington in particular challenged a piece of US legislation that was designed to lock out anyone of the Black or African race from the United States forever and put the population in the same category as criminals and undesirables attempting to enter the country. Okay, so it was a very racist piece of legislation, and Booker T. Washington and his Tuskegee machine actually defeated. Now, why is it being looked at as a example of Pan-Africanism? Because one, the bare bones definition of Pan-Africanism that you should have had a chance to examine was in the chapter you just read, which was Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanists. And the concept is unity, Pan-Africanism meaning unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation everywhere we are. Okay. Then if you got to the end of that chapter, you saw that we talked about how Booker T. Washington expressed Pan-Africanism and what his particular angle was, which was independence through industry. What Garvey's particular angle to Pan-Africanism was, which was organization, right? International organization, also implementing Washington's method, which was to initiate industries, because how are we exploited? We're primarily exploited through economics, through industry, through what we consume, right? So we are producing raw products, some other entity takes them, puts them in a can, sends them back to us. And in the process, because our labor is exploited, also the goods that we produce are exploited. And then our economy is exploited in our respective locales, and African communities, whether it's communities or nations, are exploited pretty much in the same way, right? Used as extraction sites, and the people's labor used to extract those resources. Then those resources are processed and sent back to us to consume, even though we're the producers. So Garvey, you know, on a large scale, organizes the African world, but of course his organization is not just any organization. It's an organization that promotes having Black industries, Black people being the owners of the industries, okay? And then of course, Dubois' particular expression of Pan-Africanism, which is through production of organization that precisely worked together to strategize around the total liberation of African nations. And why do I say that? Because I'm sure if you read the chapter, you saw that that Du Bois is the initiator of the Pan-African Congresses. Well, what good are the Pan-African Congresses? The Pan-African Congresses become the continuous think tank for African liberation on the continent of Africa. Okay, And many would say that this is the highest expression of Pan-Africanism. Why? Because you're not just talking about people unifying, you're talking about nations unifying, and ultimately for the purpose of continental unity, the ultimate objective, which we have not reached yet, right? But we can still have that as an ideal. We should have that as an ideal, because the idea of African unity is that African people benefit most of all from the land, the resources, and the human resources that are African, right? As opposed to where we are right now, which is that we benefit the least. When you go to work and you work on your job, you're actually benefiting least from your labor. The business, the company is benefiting the most, right? When we talk about communities being exploited in terms of their resources, we give our money to these entities in our community. We get the little trinkets or whatever it is on a basic scale that we want, but those companies are benefiting the most. When we talk about African countries, Western nations have inroads to extracting the resources, right? Natural resources that are there. And the people may be part of the labor they use to extract the resources, but they benefit the least, right? So the idea, the purpose of our unity is to eliminate that exploitation and eliminate our oppression, right? And so unity, which is another word for unity, is Pan-Africanism, is one of our major strategies and tactics, right? So I'm just going to, I'm going to do this a little bit different. If anybody had any question about that chapter, do you want to put it in the chat? I usually wait till the end, but I want to be a little more efficient about time and communicating with you all this time. So it is, for me, it's 11:26. So we're about 11 minutes in, and I was supposed to go for 30 minutes. That being said, I want to make sure that people are internalizing and maybe, understanding the readings as we go along, because I've been doing this for a while, so it's easy to just kind of like go off on the subject matter. So if you have questions about the Booker T. Washington Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanists chapter, you can put them in the chat right now. I will share that again in the screen so you can see where we're coming from. And I'm going to then open up the new reading, which is the chapter on the African exclusion measure, so that we can see how one challenges racist policies to the benefit, right? And at the end of the day, when we talk about Pan-Africanism, there should be no confusion about who benefits, right? If it becomes a guessing game as to who benefits at the end of the day, and we cannot weigh and measure the benefits to us, then it's not Pan-Africanist. It's the same old stuff, meaning somebody else other than us benefits, right? So that part of it should be a no-brainer. And in this course, we're studying specific things: individual proponents of Pan-Africanism, organizational bodies, international or national bodies, and then of course continental bodies, right? Because that's when we get into a conversation about the OAU and the African Union and all that. It should be a no-brainer that at the end of the day, all of those entities or all of those aspects should produce something for us at the end. Okay, So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to, one, I think I'm taking myself off camera, and I'm going to go to the document so that we can dissect that a little bit more, what you already read. And I'm going to be looking at your comments with regard to that reading, and then sharing in real time, hopefully, the actual next reading for this week. Okay, so I'm coming off of here. Okay, so I see Emmanuel. Good and great morning. Thank you, Nona. Right, this is Chris Emmanuel. Okay, hello, Chris Emmanuel. Yes, I was on a Carl Nelson show. Thank you to Haki. I don't know if he's here. I think he's on here. Thank you. I'm glad, because it's been a while since I made rounds again. Well, the last couple months I've been making a lot of rounds with regard to this specific research in this book. But thank you, Anna. Good to see you. Okay, so no comments yet, but I mean, no questions yet, but comments. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right to sharing the readings that you just had, which is actually, someone mentioned the Carl Nelson show. Well, that was why I was on there, because I was on there because of the book, Booker T. Washington in Africa, that I just told you guys you don't have to buy, but actually is being shared here in the context of the group. And I'm on my device this time, even though I've got my computer right next to me. So you're gonna see what's on my phone. All right, so here's what you all should have just read this past week. Okay, and let me move that. This is what you should have read this past week: Booker T. Washington in Africa, Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist. And it brings you through the history of Pan-Africanism, which is notable. Page 16 of the reading gave you sort of a laundry list of proponents, the history, which you should know in the context of this course. This is knowledge you should come out of this course with, understanding all of these proponents, as you all see here. Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, who was one of the early Back to Africa proponents of you could say Pan-Africanism. Martin Delaney, Edward Blyden, Henry Highland Garnett, Alexander Crummell, David Walker. And then, of course, in the Caribbean, Henry Sylvester Williams, who coined the phrase Pan-Africanism itself, of Trinidad, Marcus Garvey's mentor, J. Robert Love, Albert Thorne of the Barbados, on. And of course, specific attention to Haiti, that produced, Jean Prince Mars and Louise Joseph, who explained that Haiti was the embodiment of the irresistible force of the United Africa. So I'm just really recapping. So that should be part of your common knowledge, to know that Pan-Africanism is for all of us, but it was a specific process through which it was produced in the diaspora, right? And I'm skipping ahead to just the special attention that this chapter paid to the UNIA and Marcus Garvey. That was the conclusion. Actually, I should just read the conclusions for those who didn't read it. But so, on this page here, you had page 23, you had a revisiting to a very important conference in 1912. And that was the International Conference on the Negro. This is the conference that would be brought to the attention of Marcus Garvey. And essentially, it is what inspired Garvey to contact Booker T. Washington. And why do we talk about Marcus Garvey? Because Marcus Garvey become one of the biggest and major proponents of Pan-Africanism in the world through his organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which some know, but some don't know, was modeled after the Tuskegee model. Right? With 44 industries there. Right? So Tuskegee had 44 industries. That's what was examined at the International Conference on the Negro. And Marcus Garvey would learn of it through 8 educators who attended this conference and essentially brought the word back to him. And he would then initiate the UNIA, modeling the UNIA after the Tuskegee model, okay? So, you know, that covers that portion of it, and you get to see what Washington and Booker T. Washington's relationship was. And Garvey, I'm sorry, I said Washington and Booker T. Washington. Garvey, Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington's relationship was, just so you see, let me go back right here. Garvey considered Booker T. Washington his ideological father. Okay. And saw himself as a torchbearer. And so you know that Marcus Garvey was the proponent of the largest Back to Africa movement. But also, let's just be very clear, Marcus Garvey's organization, the UNIA, would span the African world, meaning the Caribbean, Central and South America, the continent of Africa, and of course, even Europe. I was in Costa Rica many, many years ago, and in a small town called Puerto Viejo, that's Spanish, but it's called Old Harbor in English, there was still a UNIA building. Because Martin went to Costa Rica, but not just made it to Costa Rica, he made it down to Costa Rica and organized, okay, around these unifying principles. So this chapter covers all of that information and then goes on to talk about, you know, the impact, perpetual impact of such organizations, right? So the long-term impact of the UNIA can be assessed through the leadership it produced, who in turn created and inspired mass organization and movements. Malcolm X's parents both worked in UNIA, for those of you who don't know, which was how they met and eventually married. Malcolm X's father, who was a minister in the UNIA organizer, was targeted and eventually murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. The Negro world, Garvey's primary means of organizing the African world, which was a newspaper, right? Garvey wanted to have an organization that had many industries, but he himself mastered really only one industry, and that was the printing press. And through that, he produced the paper called the Negro World, which could be found in every dock and port where African people were in mass. Okay, so in Africa, the Negro World publicized the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie. So how did people in Jamaica find out about Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia? It was through the Negro World. Okay, and to many, it was the fulfillment of Garvey's prophecy that a king would emerge from the East and bring redemption to African people. The world had never seen an African man crowned emperor of a nation, and out of this emerged the movement known as Rastafari. Nevertheless, the Negro world informed African people in America of the Italian invasion of Ethiopia African people in the US during that time volunteered to enlist and fight for the sovereignty of Ethiopia, one of only 2 independent African nations on the continent. So now we're seeing how, what Garvey produced, right? How he organized was to the benefit of us, further organization of the African world, and how that vehicle that he produced, which was the Negro World, his paper, not only informed, but informed our actions, right? So all of it Pan-Africanist in nature, because particular focus on our condition, not us getting together to all dress alike on a particular day, not getting together to have a great party, not getting together to, talk smack, just really coming together, organizing why to pay attention to our condition. You see, the Negro world is how people in the United States find out about the war in Ethiopia. Hence, they want to enlist and give their support monetarily, because they did do that. They used to sell little Ethiopian flags for people under support, raise funds, support in the form of lending their bodies as well to the war in Ethiopia against Italian imperialism, right? So it's important that if you haven't read the last portion of the chapter, the conclusion, which is really important because it gives you sort of a recap of everything that was there. We're using Booker T. Washington as an entry point, but we don't have to. I just use this because I know that certain points I want to make are in fact in this chapter, and that it does not neglect any part of the African world in preference for another part of the African world, because the point you should get is that in this moment in time, this particular period, around the turn of the 20th century, meaning 1900, you had African people around the world doing much of what we're doing now, paying attention to our condition and strategizing around it, and coming up with a number of different strategies and tactics to address our condition, right? This is just for some imagery. The scan is not that great, but this is an image of the first international conference on the Negro held at Tuskegee in 1912. This is this is a scan, but this is a real image of it. You can see the folks there dressed in period clothing of the time. But this is the conference that would bring many people from around the African world to Tuskegee to study the 44 industries. And like I said, Washington's approach to Pan-Africanism was to produce independence through industry, right? Owning and operating your own industries, in essence, owning what you consume. And so people from around the world, African world in particular, would come there and look at those industries. And this is also the conference where 8 educators, like I said, from Jamaica would learn of the industries at Tuskegee, but also the conference resolutions would include a plan to initiate a Tuskegee-like institute in Jamaica that did much of the same things that were happening at Tuskegee. So did many of the same things, have multiple industries. And so this is actually how Garvey and Washington have their first contact, because those educators would go back and share the word of this conference and the plan to initiate a school. But for those of you who have never seen or just don't have a clear picture in their eye of some of the people discussed in this chapter, you had Dubois, right? So Dubois, a very young doctor, W.E.B. Dubois, initially a family friend and mentee of Washington. Later, Dubois became Washington's chief critic. He founded the Niagara Movement and the NAACP, a proponent of Pan-Africanism and direct protest, who pushed for social and political rights in the US. Let me say this one thing about W.E.B. Du Bois that a lot of people don't understand. When you see people protesting Even during the civil rights movement, this idea of protesting, mass protest, direct action, this comes from Dubois. He is the proponent of direct protest, direct action, organizing, mobilizing around an issue and directly putting pressure on that. That is one of the things that he is the progenitor of. Later on, it becomes a nonviolent characteristic of it in the civil rights movement. But around the world where you see people respond in kind in that way, that comes from Dubois. He is the father of that strategy, of that tactic. And when you use that strategy or tactic to the purpose or to the benefit of African people, of Black people, or for the purpose of addressing or redressing the condition of African Black people, that's Dubois, right? He is the father of that form and that art of protest. Okay, just so you know, and that's what he looked like when he was very young. And here we have none other than Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I just said everything I think you need to know about Garvey, how he comes to the United States, really. And the case we're going to be looking at next, the African exclusion measure as a model of Pan-Africanism expressed in the legislative realm to oppose racist policies. Marcus Garvey is a direct beneficiary of this case we're going to look at. Okay, the African exclusion measure. He would be allowed into the United States the year after this racist measure was defeated, but he is the progenitor of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, initiated in Jamaica, but it comes to life in the United States, particularly in Harlem, where he is stationed. And it spans the world. Never before or since has the African world been as effectively organized as when the UNIA was at its height. At least 47 chapters of the Universal Negro Improvement Association was in the Americas, and numerous around the world, and en masse in every dock and port around the world where African people were in large number, and all through his vehicle, what? The Negro World, okay? The Negro World, a newspaper. So he used writing to, he used his writings to actually initiate that. You're gonna see me again in 1 second, but I'm about to open up the chapter that you're going to get for the next week. And that is the African exclusion measure. Okay, I'm gonna share that. And this case is a compelling case because if you ever wanted to see a case that directly related to all of us, this is it. This case right here is a case that impacts African immigration internationally. And all right, so I can't, it's not letting me, so it's not letting me share it in real time. So one, I'm gonna come back on camera real quick, and then I'm going to come on camera real quick, and then I'm going to share that. So this case right here, called the African exclusion measure, is a case that was initiated in really December of 1914. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the case. The case came about as a result of the United States utilizing, and I'm already over time, so I'm going to make this quick, and then I'm going to show you the document, and then when we get off, I'm going to share it in real time, because that always works better for me. I don't like to do these sessions and then it takes me normally the normal day to share the document is Monday, but I find it most effective when I share it in real time or, you know, around the same time. So point being is that December of 1914, the United States Senate decides to inject a small piece of legislation. Something is wrong with my camera there. I don't know, but okay, it looks weird, but bear with me because you're not gonna be looking at me too long. The U.S. Senate proposes a measure that says exclude of anyone of the Black or African race from the United States forever. Okay, and it's a result of it's as a result of the Panama Canal being completed, because the laborers on the Panama Canal were from the Caribbean, Central and South America. That being said, the United States wanted to make it clear when this American engineering project was done to the laborers, thank you for your labor, right? Who are the Black and African inhabitants of the Caribbean, Central, South America. Thank you for your labor. No, thank you on the question of immigration. No, you cannot immigrate to the United States. So they proposed this piece of legislation to the larger immigration bill to exclude anyone of the Black or African race. Thank you. My camera's messed up though, but okay. So Washington, Booker T. Washington, the least likely proponent, would spin into action and attack this measure that would come before the House of Representatives the first week of January 1915. And this chapter that I'm going to share with you essentially tells you the story of how racist policies are challenged from within the United States by the African and Black population, right? So let me say that another way. This case gives you a model of how African and Black people within the United States challenge the US government and US legislators when they initiate racist policies that will impact African people and Black people outside of the United States. Okay? This is a story of how to leverage our power within that can not only be used within the United States going forward, but can be used in other places. When the UK initiates racist policies that are going to impact African people within the UK and outside of the UK, this is a strategy for how to challenge that. Brazil, which is very Black, but still very racist because the hierarchy, the political hierarchy is still non-African. It doesn't matter that there's 200,000 to 300,000 Africans, 200 to 300 million African people or Black people there. It is still a racist government. When they initiate racist policies that are going to affect African people within and outside of Brazil, this is a method and a model to challenge, right? And same likewise goes within African nations. When there are policies that are going to impact continentally. So for example, when South Africa says we're not going to engage in xenophobia that impacts African people on the rest of the African continent, this is a way to challenge those policies. Okay, so that is what this case that you are going to receive right now is useful. Okay, I'm going to give you just a little blip of the case so you can see it. And then once we get off, then you can actually access it because I'll be posting it in real time. So bear with me one more time. I'm going to take myself off. Okay. Can I have permission to share again? Okay. So you guys hear my cat chiming in. Okay, so this is the case right here that you're going to receive in PDF form in the context of the group. It's called the African Exclusion Measure. The scan is a little shaky, but hey, it's legible. You can read it. The African Exclusion Measure. So it opens up with a quote: "Through your newspaper, I desire to appeal to the American Congress and to the people of the United States in favor of fair play and justice in connection with the immigration bill now pending before the U.S. Senate, which by amendment excludes from coming into this country any person of African descent." So this is the story of how this measure was defeated. And I give you all of the important things. One thing notably about this chapter that you read, anything that comes from this book, if you are in the United States, you wanted to follow some of what the primary documents were to put this together, you can see them at the end of the chapter. I mean, end of the page, right? Each page has some footnotes there. So those of you who are real, inquisitive, you can see where the documents are coming from. But that being the case, this is the case that you'll be reading. It's not a long case, okay? It's a very short case. And this is, I give you a picture of Booker T. Washington's funeral, because several months after the defeat of this measure, Booker T. Washington, who was the key organizer in this challenge to this racist U.S. policy, dies. So I, include the procession there on the campus of Tuskegee Institute with regard to his death. But this case is important because it changes the demographic of African people within the United States. This case would allow Marcus Garvey to come into the United States 1 year and 2 months later, in 3 months later, in March of 1916. This case would allow Malcolm X's mother to come into the United States because her ancestry was from Grenada. This case would allow Nkrumah to come into the United States because it was defeated. It defeated this racist piece of legislation. And so it opened the doors up to the Black and African world for immigration to the US, okay? So I don't want to go too deep in it and ruin it for you. It's an epic case. I think you would really enjoy this particular case, but it's a perfect example of Pan-Africanism and in the policy realm, okay? In terms of challenging racist policies, okay? So I'm gonna look at your questions real quick, and I'm gonna be out because I'm already over. I'm at the, 9:15. Yeah, I'm over. I'm supposed to lecture for 30 minutes, which you guys know, that never happens. Okay, I don't know who Sebastian is, but hey, whatever. You would have, well, anyway. Moderator. Thank you. Okay, so no particular questions. Hello from Ghana, Sierra Leone. African-American brother known as the Black Eagle was personal pilot for, oh, okay. Wow, interesting. Thank you, C. Emmanuel. Now, Thomas Dixon, who is this? C. Emmanuel. Thomas Dixon did not write a biography on Booker T. Washington. Thomas Dixon was someone Booker T. Washington had an ongoing vendetta with. it was Lewis Harlan wrote 2 biographies on Booker T. Washington, edited his personal papers. He couldn't change them, but he edited Washington's personal papers on behalf of the Library of Congress. And he wrote numerous articles on Booker T. Washington. Okay, he wrote numerous articles and pretty much built his career off of critiquing Booker T. Washington. Thomas Dixon was someone who challenged Booker T. Washington. He was the author of the book called The Klansman, okay? And that book went on to inspire the film Birth of a Nation. And he had an ongoing vendetta with Booker T. Washington, and even wrote an article that is in this book that talks about the dangerous aspects of the Tuskegee model, because Thomas Dixon felt like Washington was fooling everyone. What he was doing at Tuskegee was to produce people who were masters of men, who were involved in owning and operating industries, right, as a means of liberation. So he was very incited by Washington, and he wrote an article about it. So you have, those are, some people get it confused. No, Thomas Dixon did not edit Washington's personal papers. He wasn't even a historian or anything like that. He wrote a book called The Klansman, which was a rallying call for the Klan, okay, at the turn of the century. And then that book became the playwright to the film, which was Birth of a Nation. It's Lewis Harlan, historian and scholar, who wrote 2 of Booker T. Washington's autobiographies. He wrote a biography. Let me not say autobiography. Washington wrote his own autobiography. Harlan wrote 2 biographies on Harlan wrote 2 biographies on Booker T. Washington. Okay. Okay. Actually, one of the colonial strategies, to put all the colonial regions to produce start to supply the industries in the metropolis. In that sense, Africa only produce raw materials without taking it. But exactly, Anna. Right. So what the condition of African people and nations all around the world is one that we produce raw goods. It is taken, and then it is industrialized, processed, and sent back to us. Okay, with salt and taxes, and we pay far more for it. Okay, so this is how the African economies are exploited. Everywhere around the world, our communities and even our nations are used as extraction sites. So someone asked, how did they want to eradicate this oppression? Well, that's the point. The point of Washington's particular brand of Pan-Africanism is independence through industry. So the idea is that you are an owner of the industry. You perfect that industry, right? Garvey is a perfect example of someone learning a skill, mastering it, perfecting it, and from start to finish, producing his own paper that he would then use in the interest of his people, right? So the Negro world, so say you take any product and you perfect it, you don't just do the typesetting, you know how to actually produce the whole paper, right? From start to finish, from writing it to setting it to actually running it and producing it. So that's the idea of owning an industry, right? Knowing how to produce something from start to finish. Now, you don't have any middleman exploiting you in that process. You don't have anyone owning you. You own it, the industry, and you can use it to the benefit of yourself and your own people. Garvey is a perfect example of someone who started an organization that was modeled off of the Tuskegee model that had many industries, but he himself perfected only one industry. And he is able to, from start to finish, mass produce his newspaper and send it around the world, right? So when you say, how does one, I think I answered it, but we can come back to it next time if you don't understand the answer, okay? I don't share the chapter on the Tuskegee model in Africa in here because this course is really not about that particular book. I just use those chapters from that book so that one can, we have some trolls in here, but anyway, we use this particular book so that I can convey specific period history in the course of studying Pan-Africanism, but I don't fixate on that because we're going to go on to use the readings and writings of many others as we get to the African continent and in between, right? So I don't share beyond, I used to, but I don't share beyond the two chapters that I'm going to be sharing, you know, already shared one and sharing the other, second one. The book's name is called Booker T. Washington and Africa, The Making of a Pan-Africanist. Okay, but I share two of those chapters from the book in the context of this course for the purpose of conveying the actual historical record, right? You're not required to buy the book. And just so you know, those of you who are in the United States, if you're not in the United States, don't even consider buying the book because it just becomes too costly. And by the fall, it will be in ebook form. But for those of you who are in the United States, if you're interested in buying the book, you can, but we got like a 3-week backlog right now. There won't be restocked until September. So, you know, and you can get it on a site called BookerTWashingtonandAfrica.com. Hello from Ghana. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Solomon from Sierra Leone. Thompson. I think I said the book already. Okay, good. The moderator put it in there, or somebody else put it in there. Thank you for sharing that, the link to the book. Okay, see Emmanuel. Yes, I always like people to get the history right because there's so many people that have read it. It's been all over the place, and then they get that little point confused. So it's kind of like, no, let's, So thank you for asking the question so that I can clarify just clearly. Okay, but if you are a reader of the book, you will see more detail about the Thomas Dixon and Booker T. Washington sort of interaction and vendetta. There was a whole article that, informed my writing about their relationship, right? Called The Dangerous Aspects of the Tuskegee Model. Okay, so I'm gonna go. I will be sharing. I wasn't able to share in real time, but I'm gonna get off of here and share within the next hour, really less than that, but let's just say an hour, the actual chapter 6 that I just showed you that covers the African exclusion measure. Okay. Thank you everyone for staying to the end. Sorry for going over. I don't like to exploit your time, but at least it's for a good reason. So I will be talking to you in the group, and I am, because we are. All right, folks. So I think that's it. I think the moderator could take over and wrap up, and we're good. All right, everyone, stay safe, and thank you for committing your time and energy. Okay. All right. Peace.
Okay. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Okay. Thank you, Yvonne.
Okay. I am because we are.
Bye-bye. I am because we are.